fire was still warm. That was the first thing the rescue team noted when they reached the camp on the southern slope of Mount Iremel. 3 sleeping bags neatly laid out inside the tent, a portable stove still radiating heat, 3 tin cups half filled with tea, a backpack propped against a pine tree with its zippers open, as if someone had been reaching inside for something and simply stopped. No signs of struggle. No blood. No tracks leading away from the site that made any logical sense. Just the sound of the wind rolling across the Ural Plateau, and a silence so complete it felt like the mountain itself had swallowed 3 people whole. They were gone. And everything they needed to survive was still right there, waiting for them to come back. But that wasn't even the strangest part. Mount Iremel sits in the southern Ural Mountains of Russia, in the Republic of Bashkortostan. At 1,582 meters above sea level, it's the second highest peak in the southern Urals, not a technical climb. Not a death zone by any reasonable standard. It's a hiking destination. Every year, thousands of people make the journey to its summit, drawn by its sweeping views across the taiga, by its reputation as a place of spiritual energy, and by the kind of raw, unfiltered wilderness that's becoming harder and harder to find on this planet. The indigenous Bashkir people have revered this mountain for centuries. In their tradition, Iremel is a sacred place, a site where the boundary between the physical world and something older, something unseen, grows thin. They called it a place where the earth breathes. That's not just poetry, because something about Iremel has been making experienced, rational, well-equipped human beings lose their minds for decades. I want you to hold that thought while I tell you about Liliana. Liliana Sobina was 35 years old when she decided to take her 2 children, a son, Vadim, age 14, and a daughter, Katya, age 11, on a late summer hike up Mount Iremel. By any measure, this was not a reckless decision.
All right,
Liliana
straps are
had
tight.
been hiking since
Ready?
childhood.
Ready?
She knew the
Yes.
southern Urals. She had done sections of the Iremel Trail before. The route they planned, the standard ascent from the village of Tuliuk, is considered moderate difficulty, well-marked and regularly trafficked. On a clear September weekend,
It's not
the
working.
kind of
The
trail
compass
that
is broken.
grandparents
We're not
complete
too
with
far off.
walking
Look here.
sticks.
But the fog is
They
so
were
thick,
equipped
and the wind is
backpacks with
picking up.
water, food, emergency ponchos, a compass, a charged mobile phone,
All right,
a map
we're
of the
registered.
route downloaded
Mount Iremel
offline.
is this way.
Standard gear
Let's go.
for a day hike with a strong
I'm ready.
overnight buffer built in case the weather turned. They signed the log at the trailhead on Saturday morning at 8:47 a.m. They never
that should be
signed
it.
back out. The initial search began Sunday afternoon,
Mount Iremel.
when
Here we
Liliana
come.
failed to call her sister as planned. Her sister, a woman named Irina, who knew mountain protocols, waited for hours before contacting emergency services. By the time the first responders reached the Tuliuk trailhead Sunday evening, it was already dark, and the temperature on the upper plateau had dropped to just above freezing. But here's what nobody expected. The search team found the camp within 6 hours. 6 hours. On a mountain with well-marked trails, a standard ascent route, and 3 sets of footprints in the soft ground. They found the tent, the sleeping bags, the stove, the half-finished tea. They found Katya's small pink backpack with a drawing she had made of the summit, still folded neatly inside. They did not find Liliana, Vadim, or Katya. Now here's the detail that makes experienced rescue coordinators go quiet when they tell this story. The tent was pitched at approximately 1,200 meters elevation, well below the exposed summit plateau, in a sheltered clearing surrounded by spruce trees. This was a rational, experienced choice by Liliana. The camp showed every sign of being set up by someone who knew what they were doing. Cooking equipment organized, boots arranged outside the tent entrance. Headlamps charged and stored in the tent's interior pocket. This was not the camp of someone who panicked. And then, for reasons that have never been fully explained, all 3 of them got up and walked away from everything that kept them alive. Similar to what we uncovered in the Nutty Putty cave case, where a man made a series of perfectly calm,
All right, kids, through here.
methodical
Be careful of the
decisions
branches.
that led him
Okay, I
deeper
got it.
into an impossible
Watch out.
situation. The Iremel. Disappearance forces you to confront an uncomfortable truth. Survival instinct doesn't always fire when you need it most. To understand what might have happened on that mountain, you need to understand the terrain. And I
Be
mean
careful
really
there.
understand
That
it,
one moves.
not the way a tourist brochure
I
describes
got
it,
Watch
but
your
the
step.
way a forensic geographer would. The upper reaches of Mount Iremel are defined by what geologists call a Kuramnik, a massive field of angular,
You can do
broken boulders left behind by
I'm
glacial
scared.
activity.
it. Just step
These
across.
rock fields are deceptive.
That's it, you're safe. Veja isso, é líquen. Cresce nas rochas e pode resistir a esses elementos severos. Como se agarra? É tão bonito.
From a distance, they look passable. Up close, they're a 3-dimensional maze of shifting stones,
Keep close
hidden
together.
gaps, and surfaces that tilt at
It's getting too thick
unpredictable
to
angles.
see. Right behind you.
In dry conditions, a fit adult can move through a Kuramnik at roughly 300 to 400 meters per hour. In wet conditions, or in the fog that rolls in off the plateau with virtually no warning, that number drops to near 0. But the Kuramnik isn't even the most dangerous variable. The most dangerous variable is the fog itself. Meteorological data from the Iremel region shows a phenomenon called orographic cloud formation, where moist air from the Western Urals rises rapidly as it meets the mountain, condensing into dense, disorienting fog in a matter of minutes. Visibility can drop from clear to 3 meters in under 7 minutes. 7
I
minutes,
can't see anything.
not a gradual overcast.
We need to keep
an
going.
instant wall of
Let's
white.
try that way.
And here is where the physics of the human body begin to betray you.
Keep looking.
Because
It's impossible.
when visibility
I can't see anything.
drops to
Just
near
hold on to
0
your
in
bags and
broken
follow me.
in
Where are we
Ventera,
going? Forward.
your
We have to keep
vestibular
going.
system,
It's still not
the
working.
inner ear mechanism that tells you which way is up,
Which way do we go?
which way is forward,
I'm
which way
cold.
is the slope descending, begins to receive contradictory signals. The medical term is spatial disorientation,
Arthur.
and it is extraordinarily
hear me?
well documented in aviation,
Arthur, it's okay.
in underwater
Look at me.
diving, in
We need to go.
mountaineering.
Keep close
Your
to me.
brain,
It's
deprived of
getting
reliable
colder.
visual anchors, begins
almost
to
there.
generate its own
Just keep
spatial
walking.
map.
No,
And
no,
that
no, we
map
have
is
this.
wrong. You don't feel lost.
I knew we were going the
That's
wrong
the
way.
critical point. You
Just
feel
keep
like
moving.
you know exactly where you're going. You feel
It's
certain,
here.
and you are
I
walking
found
in
it.
a circle. The Soviet mounties for this group
Keep
of
close,
fire
the fog is thick and we can't lose each other.
It was
let's
documented
go.
as far back as the 1960s in the northern Urals, and it appears, in the evidence gathered from Iremel, to have claimed at least a dozen hikers over the past 4 decades. But the fog doesn't explain everything. Because Iremel has something else, something that search and rescue teams started reporting in the 1990s. Something that the Russian Geographical Society quietly began investigating in 2008. And something that the official incident reports consistently categorize as equipment malfunction and then decline to elaborate: magnetic anomalies. The geological substrate beneath Mount Iremel contains significant deposits of magnetite, iron oxide minerals
The
that
needle
generate
is spinning. I don't know which
localized
way.
distortions in
Mom,
the Earth's
what should we
magnetic
do?
field.
We have to
In
go this
practical
way.
terms,
Come on.
this means compasses don't work correctly on Iremel. Not dramatically wrong, not obviously wrong, just slightly, consistently wrong. A declination error of 5 to 8 degrees that compounds with every kilometer you travel. 5 degrees doesn't sound like much. But here's the math. If you're navigating by compass bearing in 0 visibility across a boulder field,
No
a
signal.
5-degree
We'll have
error
to find the
means
path
that after
ourselves.
500 meters of travel, you
Are
are
we lost?
43 meters off
Where are
your
we going?
intended path. After a
you see
kilometer,
anything?
you are 87 meters
No,
off.
it's just fog.
After 2 kilometers,
We're lost.
in dense terrain with no visible landmarks, you are in a completely different drainage, on a completely different slope, with absolutely no way to know how far from your camp you've traveled. Liliana had a compass. She also had offline
Still nothing.
GPS maps on her phone.
Let me
What
try.
she didn't have, what almost
No
no
signal.
one carries on a day hike, was a backup. GPS unit with a fresh battery and satellite lock acquired before entering the magnetic
Keep your eyes on that
interference
ridge.
zone.
It's our only way across.
Because in normal
Right, I see it.
conditions, you don't need that.
But it's so far.
Iremel is not technically demanding.
You'll be all right.
The GPS
so
on her
cold, I
phone
can't
would
stop
have been
shivering. We'll
sufficient
get
in
through
normal
this.
conditions. But normal conditions on
I couldn't get
Iremel
through.
have a shelf
We'll
life
have to
of
keep going.
minutes.
Okay. Yes.
The search operation ran for 11 days. At its peak, it involved 73 personnel, professional mountain rescue teams, volunteers with dogs, military personnel with thermal imaging equipment. They covered an area of approximately 40 square kilometers around the standard Iremel trail network. On day 4, search dogs picked up a scent trail leading northeast from the abandoned camp toward the Kuramnik fields on the mountain's eastern face. A face that experienced local hikers avoid after midday because the afternoon shadows make the boulder field nearly impossible to navigate safely. A face that the standard trail map doesn't even route through. Because there is no reason for a properly oriented hiker to end up there. The dog trail ended at the edge of a deep ravine, a glacial cleft in the rock that drops roughly 18 meters and is partially filled with boulders and snowpack even in September. The technical term for a feature like this is a bergschritt, and in the fog. In the disorientation of circular navigation, you wouldn't see it coming. Not until you were at its edge. And sometimes not even then. Search teams rappelled into the ravine on day 5. They found a torn piece of orange fabric, consistent with the emergency poncho listed in Liliana's kit, snagged on a rock approximately 6 meters down. They found a child's shoe. They found nothing else.
Hold the line! Secure your grip!
Again, and the
blizzard is too strong. We need to find cover.
I want to talk about what happens to the human body and the human mind in the final stages of exposure on a mountain like Iremel.
Keep close. We have to find a
This
way.
isn't speculation. This is documented
I can't feel my
physiology.
toes. I'm
And
scared.
understanding it is the only way
rubbing
to
your hands. It's
understand
gonna be
how
okay.
3 people could vanish
It's
so
so cold, I
completely
can't feel
that
my
11
toes.
days of professional
Take this, it
searching
will
couldn't
help.
locate them.
Keep your heads down.
Stage 1
We
of
need to stay together.
hypothermia begins
It's
when
so
core
cold,
body
Anya.
temperature
I can't
drops
feel my
below
feet.
35
Just a little
degrees
further.
Celsius.
Hold on tight. Keep your
At
heads
this
down.
stage, the body is
Where are
still
we going?
fighting. You shiver.
I'm cold.
Your heart rate
Just a little
increases. Your
Come
mind,
on, we have to get you inside.
critically, remains largely
Carefully, sis.
functional.
Watch your step.
You know you're cold.
It's so cold. I
You
can't feel
look
my
for
toes.
shelter.
Come on,
You
Gloria.
make
Stay with me.
decisions, some of them wrong, because the prefrontal cortex is already
We have to
beginning
keep
to
moving.
lose its edge. But mostly, you are
We have
still
to keep
you.
going.
Stage
He's not
2 begins
responding.
at 32
I'm so cold, I
degrees.
can't feel
This
my
is where
toes.
it gets
Keep
dangerous
moving.
in ways that
We
aren't
have to keep
intuitive.
moving.
The shivering
I can't.
stops. Not
Yes, you
because
can.
you're
Come on.
warming up, because your
Hold still.
muscles have
It's
exhausted
stuck.
their glycogen stores
It's
and
so
can no longer
cold.
generate heat through tremor.
Almost there. Just
Your
a little
heart
more.
begins to slow. And here is the detail that matters. A phenomenon called paradoxical undressing begins to occur, where
I
the
can't feel my
collapsing
fingers.
capillaries in your extremities
Where are we
suddenly
going?
dilate,
wanna
flooding
go
your
home.
skin with warm blood, creating an overwhelming, false sensation of burning heat. People in stage 2 hypothermia have been found stripped
Keep
of their
close to me.
clothing in sub-zero
We'll find a way.
conditions. They
I'm so
removed their
cold.
layers because
I
they
know.
genuinely felt they were
Just
on
hold
fire.
on. Look. What is it? A jacket.
But before paradoxical
Where is she?
undressing, before the
Keep
confusion
moving.
of stage 2,
I'm cold. I can't feel my
there's a
toes.
window. A narrow window in the early stage
Is
1
it big
to
enough?
transition,
It's so cold. I'm
where
scared.
a different instinct
Just push.
sometimes
Almost
takes
there.
over.
Come on, get in here.
Researchers call it terminal burrowing.
so
The
cold.
victim, driven by a deeply primitive survival
Hurry.
reflex, seeks
Help.
the smallest, most enclosed space they can
Lost.
find. They crawl under
Cold.
boulders. They wedge themselves
Help
into
us.
crevices. They disappear into the
Look,
mountain.
a shoe.
14-year-old
Whose is
boy.
it? Don't
An
touch it.
11-year-old girl, a mother who would have done anything to protect them from the cold. The Kuramnik, that field of massive, chaotic boulders, contains thousands of spaces large enough for a human body to crawl into. Some of those spaces are 3, 4, 5 meters deep beneath the surface rock. In 11 days of searching, with dogs whose scent trail had already gone cold in the rain, you could walk directly over someone and never know they were there. The investigation closed inconclusively in the spring of the following year. The official reports cited environmental disorientation and hypothermia as probable cause and noted the challenging topography of the northeastern face as a contributing factor. There were recommendations, better trail signage, updated maps noting the magnetic anomaly zones, mandatory registration of GPS coordinates with the Mountain Rescue Service before ascent, recommendations as if a sign on a trail would have saved them. What the report didn't address, what official reports almost never address, because the implications are too uncomfortable, is the systemic failure that allowed 3 people to walk into a known hazard zone without anyone raising a flag. Because Iremel is not a secret. The magnetic anomalies have been documented. The fog patterns are predictable. The Eastern Kurumnik has claimed hikers before. A 2003 incident. A 2009 incident. A partial rescue in 2014 where 2 hikers were found suffering from severe hypothermia after becoming disoriented in exactly the same northeast drainage area. 3 separate incidents. Same terrain, same mechanism of failure. And the trail sign still said nothing about compass deviation. Trailhead information board still showed a simplified route map with no indication of magnetic interference zones. The offline map Liliana downloaded still routed confidently through areas where GPS signals are degraded by topographic shadowing from the plateau above. We call this an institutional failure cascade when the systems designed to prevent a tragedy have each individually degraded to the point where they can no longer compensate for each other's weaknesses. We analyzed a version of this in our deep dive on the Bifford Dolphin incident, where for separate safety protocols all failed simultaneously. Not because any single one was catastrophically broken, but because each one was just slightly inadequate, and slightly inadequate times 4 equals dead. Iremel ran the same equation. The compass failed by 8 degrees. The fog came in 7 minutes early. The GPS lost satellite lock for 6 minutes in the shadow zone. The trail signage said nothing. And 3 people walked off the edge of their map into a place no one was looking. Mount Iremel is still open to the public. Thousands of people hike it every year. And in the years since Liliana and her children vanished, the Russian Mountain Rescue Service has updated the trailhead signage, added a mandatory registration protocol, and installed 2 weather monitoring stations on the upper plateau. The magnetic anomaly zone is now marked on official maps. A warning in Russian, in small print, advises hikers to verify compass readings against GPS before entering the northeastern section. Small print. In 2019, a solo hiker from Yekaterinburg experienced, registered, carrying a satellite communicator, was found by rescue teams 400 meters from the Iremel summit, severely hypothermic and completely disoriented. He had been walking in circles for 9 hours. His compass was functional. His map was current. He simply could not reconcile what his instruments were telling him with what his body was telling him. And when those 2 things conflict, in the cold, in the fog, on a mountain that has been disorientating people for longer than anyone has kept records, the body wins. He survived. He couldn't explain what happened. He said the mountain felt like a place where direction stops meaning what it's supposed to mean. Liliana, Vadim, and Katya were never found. Their case file remains open. If you've ever stood on a mountain, any mountain, and felt for just a moment that it was watching you, that the landscape was tilting in some direction you couldn't name, that the compass in your hand was somehow lying. You felt, for just that moment, exactly what they felt. And that is a terrifying thing to know. Stay on the trail. Tell someone exactly where you're going. And for the love of everything that matters, check your compass twice.